Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen. Rich,
Good
Rob,
evening.
how are you?
Very good. Very good. It's been a magic weekend of FA Cup. Third round magnificence. And a few supporters being put back in their place after some of the agendas and nonsense of the last week or so.
Indeed. How are you, Rob? So, yeah, tonight, Rich, do you want to tell the beautiful ladies and gentlemen what we're going to talk about this evening?
Well, I thought, it'd be good. I know that you've already done a show talking about some of this, but just some of the myths and the agenda and some of the nonsense City fans have had to put up with in the last week. And not just City fans, I think fans of a lot of clubs, are indirectly insulted by some of the nonsense. So, we thought it'd be good to talk about some of those things.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense, crap, fiction, stories, everything that you want to make up about this football club with no history, with no this. And we thought we'd come and put some facts straight to a lot of people and put a few people back in their box.
And some outright lies, because things are peddled by football journalists who spend their life in football, and we can say sometimes, that might be laziness, but there are some things that are so patently easy to find out answers to and to find out the truth of, that it has to be outright lies from the media when they peddle certain things that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, now the biggest one for me is the attendance. That we have no fans. We're playing an empty stadium. Everyone turns up in blue seats. That's the biggest bunch of waffle. The only time the Etihad has ever sort of looked not full is this year, mainly because of COVID. This is what people are forgetting about. It's COVID. If you look at every attendant, every Premier League stadium this year, there are seats empty everywhere. Tottenham played Liverpool, and there was like 8,000-9,000 empty seats in the upper tier. Even Gary Neville said that.
Yeah, and I think it's not just and it's not just now. It's talking about history as well. The myths. We've had this from Arsenal about this giant club. Always the biggest supported club in London, always winning things. The fans forget that it took them 50 years before they actually won anything. I mean, teams like City had won stuff decades before Arsenal, and yet we talk about history. And it was interesting to read the other day. Arsenal always talk about themselves being the biggest club in London and their historic support, but you actually go and look at it. And did you know that, for example, that if you actually look at the biggest crowds the clubs in London have had, Arsenal are the fourth team in London. They're behind Tottenham, they're behind Chelsea, they're behind Charlton Athletic. So they go on about this, huge history. And interestingly, the other club who does that is Liverpool. Liverpool's record attendance, where does that sit? Below Bolton, below Huddersfield, below Sheffield United, below Sheffield Wednesday, 18th in the country. 18th in the country. Now, what's their excuse for that? Because there were plenty of decades and times when there weren't even restrictions on who you could get into grounds. You could fill them up as much as you want. But they can't even get a record crowd to match Huddersfield Town, those giants of West Yorkshire. So we get all these myths about these huge histories and everything. When you actually look at it, sometimes it's actually, in the case of Liverpool, it's pretty pathetic that this world's greatest club, which they call themselves, are sitting 18th in this country for their record attendance, below some of those giants that I mentioned.
Well, we'll just have actual interest, Rich. Who has the highest league attendance in this country. And no, we're not going to talk about Wembley Stadium.
Interestingly, Martin, the taking out Wembley, the highest league attendance was actually, I believe, was not actually City. It was Manchester United at Main Road when we lent them the ground, and it was half full of City fans. The highest attendance is FA Cup, which is higher than that league attendance, and that's City. The near 85,000 we got for an FA Cup game. So the top teams up there, right at the top, are City, United, Chelsea, Everton, Villa. It's teams like that up at the very top. And yet the two teams that you always hear from and is Arsenal and Liverpool. And you actually have to almost get a bit of vertigo looking down to find where they sit.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, I read somewhere, do you remember when we won the FA Cup back in 1904? Yeah, Manchester City.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Oh, well, I know you will remember it well.
I know I'm old, but
I've done some reading on this from some so-called City historians and football historians, and there's a lot of photos from our open top bus parade, and there was something like 1.2 million people out that day to celebrate us with the FA Cup and everything else. So I just don't understand this waffle. To me, it's another stick to hit us over the head with, which is peddled by total myth, biasness.
It's. I think fundamentally, you almost have to look psychologically at the supporters doing this. There really are. There's two kinds of supporters in the world. There's supporters who support their club because they don't really have a choice. Family, they're born in a place, they support the local team, and they almost never you don't make a choice. You become a City fan because where you live, your parents and things like that. And there's supporters who choose what club to support, and that's absolutely fine. A lot of people have no connections to a place or family or whatever. But the thing is, if you choose a club, some of the people who choose clubs like that choose it for a psychological reason. They want to bask in the success of that team because it makes them feel more successful as individuals. And I think what happens is when fans like that, of which, there are a lot at certain clubs like Liverpool, Arsenal and United, when they're in that boat, they have to have an excuse that because if they feel the glory of the team, they also feel if the team's going badly, it's making them less successful as a person. So they have to have excuses. And that all this agenda about City about is insecure fans of other clubs and a certain element of their support needing excuses. And the media pander to that because the media is about clicks and making money. So if they know that there's loads of, butthurt United, Liverpool and Arsenal fans who think they support the biggest club in the world, but they can't win anything, the media has to sell newspapers, to sell clicks, has to pander to that agenda. And that's what it's all about. It's excuses to try and make people feel a bit better about themselves.
Well, it's the funny thing, to that. Obviously, we have the Tottenham one, 85,512 against Bayer Leverkusen. That was at Wembley, so it wasn't their own ground. Then it, like you said, comes ourselves, 84,569 in an FA Cup 6th round against Stoke City back in 1934. Then it's Chelsea, 82,905. Then United with the game you said at our place. Then Everton, then Villa, Sunderland, Charlton Athletic at 8. Charlton.
Hi everybody. It's me, the dancing fucking clown. How's everyone doing? I think that's it's all very interesting. I mean, I personally, Martin, have you told us a statistic for what Manchester City's attendance was in Division 2 or League 1 as it's known now compared to the Premier League?
I'm going to get to that one.
Well, can you get to that now? Because I think that's like one of the best statistics ever. I think we had like the 5th or 6th highest attendance in England while in the 3rd division.
The 98-99 season, we had 28,000, just over 28,000 there. Now, if you look at the Premier League in that same season, the highest was United at 55. And then the next one, we would be in that season as it stands, if we are attendance, we would have been 11th or 12th in that Premier League for record of attendance. So there would have been 8 clubs in the Premier League in the same season we were in League One that had a lower attendance than us. Southampton, Wimbledon, Charlton, Leicester, Coventry, Nottingham Forest, West Ham United, Blackburn Rovers.
What? Surely not Nottingham Forest. But Martin, they've won the Champions League.
415.
But they've won the Champions League.
24,415, Rob.
But they've won the Champions League, Martin. They're a massive club.
Well, like I said, Leicester City are down there.
Yeah.
Charlton Athletic, who we just said had one of the highest, they're down there.
They made easier work of Arsenal this weekend than we did.
They did. So what
you on about? Arsenal are a massive club. Wait, hold on. Something happened this week. An Arsenal fan said to a City fan, "Where's your European Cup?" Which is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard on the planet. Because where's Arsenal's European Cup? But Nottingham Forest are a massive, massive team. Nottingham Forest have won the Champions League, Martin. They're fucking huge. Surely they've got the biggest attendance in Europe, if not the world.
Yep.
Oh, I'm flabbergasted. I'm genuine. And Arsenal, they're the history boys, mate. Surely they had a bigger attendance than City. Oh wait,
here's the funny thing.
Highbury, 27,000. Main Road, 33,000. What the fuck's going on here?
Well, Aston Villa in that same season, yes, they had a higher attendance, but it was only 36,000.
But wait, Aston Villa, they're the biggest club in the world as well.
36,000.
They've won the Champions League.
Aston Villa were the 4th highest. And this is the thing, what people need to realise. We were, and this is something you touched on, Rob, many times. We built 2 temporary stands. We went down 2 divisions and built our stadium bigger. We were packing them in. Yes, you'll say cup games was 18,000. That's cup games. But in the league, we built 2 temporary stands, which was called Gene Keller, Singing in the Rain, if anyone doesn't want to know. And you got a free poncho when you went in.
Ozzy will be writing that one down because he didn't know Gene Kelly stand. Right, anyway.
So, there you go.
Can I move on to my agenda? I've
also got another bit of info on that one, Rob, if you want me to.
Oh, go on.
I'm going to throw something at you now. Now, in our last season, because obviously I'm not going to bring up this year, last year, or the year before with COVID. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring up the last time there was no such thing as COVID. Now, Manchester City filled their ground better than Liverpool or Manchester United in the last time football was a normal entity for fans. I know that's shock horror for everyone. Yes, shock horror. Manchester City filled their ground percentage-wise. And when I mean film, talking capacity to percentage.
Yeah.
Don't mean they've got a 76,000 seat stadium. No, I'm talking the percentage-wise. So here we go. Got some little facts for you here. A little bit of facts. So the figures that was compiled by worldfootball.net. City in that season had a capacity of 98.7% full. What? Anyone want to have a guess what Liverpool's and United's might be?
97.
97.7 for Clanfield. And 97% for...
Hold on.
Nightmares.
Are you telling me that at Old Scaffold and Candlefield, their loyal, rabid support didn't turn up as much as ours did?
Not in the 18-19 season, which was the last time. There was no COVID
anymore.
A few planes get cancelled from Ireland, or there's problems on the M6 up from London. That those tourist clubs are going to have problems, and it will come to City. We are going to get more tourists over time, but the reality is we haven't yet reached tourist club status in the way that that Liverpool and United do.
Our owners are certainly trying to make us become tourist FC. Anyway,
no doubt.
Can I move on to my agenda now?
Yeah, push come.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, in the last few weeks, months, years, I'm sure you'll have seen on the BBC, because they put articles out about it, Sky, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all these personalities on YouTube, TikTok, that's a hotbed for it right now. Arsenal Fan TV, United Stand, Anfield Agenda, that little floppy-haired idiot that said one funny thing once and he's trying to dine out on it for the rest of his life that's a Liverpool fan. I'm sure you all know about that teenage fuckwit who's not...
Oh, yeah, the guy who made the joke in the water.
Who's not funny. He's just a little reprobate. And I want to talk to the younger people in the audience now. So Ali and Zohab and Charlie, if Charlie's about, just any of you younger boys that are always getting this stuff levelled at your face. I want to show you something. Now, unfortunately, I've had to pull it from Wikipedia, but, we move. Right. So, the Premier League was formed in 1992-1993. That's when it changed from the First Division to the Premier League. And I want to show you something. I want to show you something now, ladies and gentlemen. So between 1992 and 1993 season and 2002 and 2003 season, there were three winners of the Premier League. Manchester United won it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. Blackburn Rovers won it once. Arsenal won it twice. So in that decade, in that 10-year period, there were 3 teams that won the Premier League, with Manchester United winning it 8 times. Did anyone come out and fall out of their chair and say that they were ruining football? Not quite yet. Okay, so let's go to the 2003-04 season to 2011-12 season. Another 10-year period, or even if you want, you can go to the 12-13 season. Another 10-year period. Let's have a look at the teams that won it. Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United. So who dominated that decade? Well, it's Manchester United again. Arsenal won it once. Chelsea won it 3 times. Manchester United won it 4 times. Was anyone crying out for the ruination of football yet? No, still no, because it was the elite clubs, it was the ones that they want to be at the top, it was the Sky Sports buyers, the global viewers and all of the rest of it that were fueling football back then, the rabid Manchester United fans. By the way, ickle Liverpool hadn't won a title in all of this time. But Manchester United were at the top of the pile. Chelsea had joined in, they'd brought their Russian money in. Arsenal was still relevant. But once again, for a second decade in a row, only 3 teams had won the Premier League. And none of them were accused of being overly dominant and ruining football. But who's these boys here? Ickle Manchester City have got some money. And let's look at the next 10-year period. Although the next 10-year period is not fulfilled yet, but still. Let's have a look at the teams that won the league in that decade. Manchester United won. Manchester City won. Chelsea won. Leicester won. Okay, so already that's 5 teams. 5 teams, by the way, in the last decade of football have won the Premier League. Yet Manchester City, ladies and gentlemen, have been accused of ruining football and dominating the league and making the league look like a joke. So, in the first 2 decades of the Premier League, Big Morgan, I don't understand why you're not getting this, mate. I don't understand why you're not getting this. In the first 2 decades of the Premier League, 3 teams, with one of those teams being overly dominant and ruining football. Yet in the last decade of football, Manchester City are apparently ruining it beyond belief, beyond recognition, making it look like a joke. Arsenal fans are telling us that we need to get back in our box. People are telling us that we're ruining football, making it a farmers' league. Yet in the decade where we're dominant, allegedly, 5 teams have won the Premier League. Yet before we came along, only 3 teams were winning it in the previous 2 decades. So can anyone explain to me how we are the ruination of football?
Well, I think there's 2 things, Rob. 2 very big things there of why we're the ruination of football. One, and I don't know if people have noticed that this much, but I don't think I've ever seen, compared to this season, I don't think I've ever seen the other big clubs give up. Essentially, Liverpool have given up on the league this season. They've sent their manager and their captain out to give their excuses and explain how they're so hard done by, how they're so unlucky, and they're not going to win the league this year. And you know how you know they've given up on the league? Liverpool having that Arsenal game postponed was saying, we need to win this game. We know we don't care if we have a fixture pile up because our league games don't matter anymore. If Liverpool had cared about the league or even thought they were going to win the Champions League, they would have played that game under any circumstance, which is what City would have done, because Pep would know if you punt games at this time of year, Liverpool have now punted 2, you are creating a 3-game-a-week situation later in the season, and you aren't going to win. If you're not clear by 5-10 points, you are not going to win a Premier League if you're playing a European and a Premier League game midweek. So the teams have given up, right? So in that sense,
that's not City's fault.
No, it's not City's fault. I'm saying it's absolutely Liverpool's fault. And I can't believe the mentality of a so-called winner like Klopp and a so-called winner like Van Dijk coming out on televised interviews to give their excuses. That's not a winning mentality. Winners, and people who are competing for the league go away, lick their wounds, and think what they're going to do. They don't come out and make excuses.
Rich, it gets worse. Since, I don't know if you know, Rich, because I know you've been in the land of Nod for the last few hours.
Yep.
But it's come out that this COVID pandemic that they were all having, with how many players did they have out? And Van Dijk was, we've had a pandemic, and Manchester City have had not had to deal with any of this. They had 1 positive COVID case. That was Trent. So, everybody else, Klopp has confirmed it after the Shrewsbury game, were all false positives. I wonder why.
Is there an AFCON?
That's So we've given up.
Can we get back on my agenda though, please, Martin? You're taking it on to the next. You're taking it on to the next conspiracy far too early. So let me ask the question though. Well, let me ask the question, Rich. Let me ask the question. Yeah. In the first decade of the brand new tournament, the Premier League, Manchester United won it 8 times.
Yeah. Well, I think what people forget, and when they talk about problems with competition in the games, people might actually forget that the whole Premier League setup was driven by Murdoch and driven by TV money. And
I thought you were going to say driven by Murdoch.
Agree that. Also happened
reference to a certain event in 1986, which eventually led to the Premier League formation.
Yeah, but they also happened to own a share in Manchester United, and BSkyB actually tried to take over Manchester United. So through all that time, in United's case, they were, we talk about, some of City's related parties and whether that's an issue. United fundamentally were part owned by the media company that was intending to make all the money out of football. That's an issue. So what a surprise that football was set up to financially benefit Manchester United above anyone else and the clubs alike and around them at that time. So what a surprise. I mean, if you talk about corruption in football and vested interest in anything, nothing comes worse than when BSkyB were owning and trying to take over and influencing the entire board and leadership at Manchester United. So you've got all that corruption going on. Well, not corruption. It wasn't corruption. I shouldn't say that because, it was all legal. But you've got that related party, that interest, that, the unfairness in competition going on at the very beginning. So how can it be surprising that Manchester United dominated a decade when they spent by far the most money? I think they were the top spenders, something like 7 or 8 of the first 10 seasons. They were part owned by the people who were pretty much running the game, and that's what lack of competition's about, not what we've got now. Yeah. We would have, if Liverpool weren't giving up, we would have competition, because Liverpool would have played their game.
I don't get it.
They'd have won it, and we might have competition.
Why are the things that you are saying contrary to the narrative? I don't understand.
Because we're not part of the G14, are we? We're not part of it. Yeah, we're not part of their little higher table, their little... You know, when these old sort of men's clubs that you heard about in like, you know, that they all go away and have a brandy and meet up late at night and talk about all these business deals. We're not allowed in that little room. We're not allowed in it. We're not meant to be in it, having a brandy and a cigar and chatting about, you know, who we're going to destroy next. Because I'm telling you now, Newcastle's next on their list now.
Yeah, but this is where I think City fans need to be a bit smarter in our arguments, right? You've got a couple of clubs who talk about history or history, depending which club it is, and their fans believe that history, if you actually look it up in the dictionary, equals trophies, because they don't history,
and it's also spelled with an I, right?
It's just about trophies. But what an insult that is to the fans of every club in that 92. Every one of those clubs has history, whether you're talking about Brighton and Hove Albion or Oxford United or clubs who have won a lot of trophies like Everton and Sunderland, whether you're talking Newcastle, City, Chelsea, whoever you're talking about, all those clubs have history. They have history since...
Rich, hold on, Rich, hold on. Are we talking about Accrington Stanley, Aston Villa, Blackburn Rovers, Bolton, Burnley, Derby, Everton, Notts County and Preston? Are we talking about the
every one of them has history. And why should their fans have to listen to, you know, mainly Liverpool, sometimes United, always Arsenal? Why should their fans have to listen to these clubs going on about every other club who hasn't won as many trophies as them has no history? It's just absolute nonsense. All clubs have history, and some of the clubs should learn a bit more about their real history. Like, I'd like to hear a bit more about Liverpool fans in their socialist paradise, how they feel being the club founded by a Tory mayor, a brewer, in the city of slavery. How do they feel about their real history? Not their history of Gold Cups in the 1970s, but the real history of the club. You know, how do, you know, United feel about some of their very checkered history, the way they treated the families of the players after Munich, the way they left families with nothing whilst making money off the back of misery. What about the massive problems with Louis Edwards and inferior product he was selling to the school kids of Manchester, you know, with, you know, alleged, you know, dodgy deals going on, making money? How do Liverpool feel that, you know, they were owned by, you know, started by a brewer and owned by a gambling family? They were bankrolled by a gambling family for decades, an industry that probably brings more misery to people in countries like, you know, the UK and Australia than just about any other. This absolute nonsense. And then this idea that we've got terrible owners. Well, what is it? Is it great being owned by US hedge funds, effectively businesses that trade off the back of, you know, trying to short companies most of the time, you know, that they run by American sports franchise businesses like Arsenal, their owner who'll move a club from one city to another because it's financially beneficial, who doesn't want relegation because the owners at United, Arsenal, Liverpool don't believe in relegation. Yeah. They believe that football is a business with a steady profit line. Just this absolute nonsense when we've got all these things going on in the game, just to pander to the weak egos of Glory fans who cannot handle the fact that their team doesn't win stuff every single year.
And God forbid you Google Belgium 1985. God forbid it.
Yeah. And it's just pandering to weak egos of people who cannot handle the fact that they don't have permanent success. And what is life about apart from ups and downs, successes and failures? And what is the best thing about City? The best thing about City is that we were going to watch us lose to bloody teams like Wickham in the league and watching an absolute debacle going
not
on
letting this Wickham thing
and loving every minute of it. And most of those Glory fans don't even know they're born, because the second their team goes to third or fourth in the league, all they're spending their life doing is coming up with excuses.
So anyway, Liverpool, a city that profited on the back of the slave trade, Rich. Should we talk about that? I mean, while the rest of the British Empire and the Royal Navy was running around the world to eliminate the slave trade, what was Liverpool's connection?
Well, I think there was a very, very good quote, which was, I think, in about 1863, in one of the main newspapers in New York, which basically said that if you were in Britain, you would see more Confederate flags flying on the banks of the Mersey than you would flying on the banks of the Mississippi. So for those who know about history, the politicians and indeed many of the people in Liverpool were pushing for the UK government, for George the Third and his boys, to actually join with the Confederacy and fight against Lincoln and the Union. The cotton workers of Manchester, and Manchester was, indirectly involved in that same trade, they went on strike. They refused to take cotton from the US or from the Confederacy, I should say, into the Manchester cotton mills. They went on strike. And if you go into Manchester, in the central town, there's a statue of Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln's statue sits there because they personally gifted it to Manchester, because Abraham Lincoln's, essentially said that outside the US, no city played a bigger role in ending slavery and actually ensuring that the Union won the Civil War than the people of Manchester. So Manchester can have an incredibly proud history around that.
We're just better people, Rich. A better class of people.
Well, you look at our origins, whether, I know there's contrary narratives as to whether it was really Anna Connell or whether it was just her father, but we were fundamentally founded to help the working class people of Manchester.
Oh, don't step into that minefield of Anna Connell.
Yeah,
don't
Rich,
step into
go down that road.
Listen, all we know for sure is that it was started at St. Mark's Gorton Church and Anna Connell existed. The twain shall never meet in reality, though.
What I'm saying is we were founded to help the working class people of Manchester keep away from fighting and drinking, essentially. Liverpool were founded because there was a team called Everton, who were, for the first century of English football, the bigger club in Liverpool, without any doubt. Everton had a director who was a director, and he owned the ground that Everton played in. He decided he was going to quadruple the rent he charged to the club because he wanted to make some more money for it. This is the Tory mayor we were talking about. And so what happened is they wouldn't agree to pay his new really high rent. It would have, some things the Red said it would have basically bankrupt Everton, finished Everton off. So he took his ball home and founded a new club. So not only was he a Tory mayor in this
related to you,
city of morality, but he also was essentially trying to rip off his team Everton and only founded Liverpool in a fit of pique because he was, not going to get as much money as he wanted. What glorious way to be formed. What absolute glory. And Arsenal, who mysteriously, coming fourth, managed to somehow get all the votes to get appointed to the top flight, even though they should have been fourth choice. But miraculously, lots of men and MPs, etc., suddenly got a little bit richer, and Arsenal got voted into the league at the expense of better sides, like the two sides who were actually relegated, and Tottenham, who finished above them. So, what glory to suddenly find your way through brown envelopes into
history, Rich.
Into the top league. That's history. That's the history of Arsenal. Buy your way in. Don't win anything for 50 years and then pretend you've always been massive. Or Liverpool get founded by a Tory mayor, Evertonian, trying to rip off his club in a city which has a lot to answer for historically.
I've got two important questions, Rich.
Suddenly you're the moral highbrows of football.
Was that Tory mayor, was he still spending the Coutinho money back then? And was he the net spend champion mayor?
Oh, I'm sure he was. I heard that he got his hops for far less money than anyone else paid for their hops, because all his hops came from Bootle, and they all basically moved to Liverpool when they were 8 months old. Lifelong Liverpool beer fans.
Absolutely, like Mo Salah and Mane and Firmino and all that. They all played football on Stanley Park as kids, didn't they?
Yeah.
They'd play for Liverpool for free. I actually got a rabid Liverpool fan once told me that Luis Suarez would love to go back to Liverpool and he'd play for him for free if he could. If they'd let him, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure. I was reading the other day that, not a single City player would get into Liverpool's first 11. And I was just wondering, how bad must your manager be if you got the 11 best players in the Premier League and you can't even,
they've only won it once,
be top, let alone 25 clear?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Okay, so next agenda, gentlemen. Martin?
Well, do you want me to bring up to that? I mean, I've already mentioned it. Do you want me to go into it, Rob?
Go right ahead. Let's talk about COVID.
Well, is it? Yeah. Klopp has come out today. Klopp's really put his foot in it. And I don't think he actually realises, well, he hasn't put his foot in it. He's put his big, bright, big Bugs Bunny teeth into it, actually. But what he's done today is open his big trap in an interview after playing Shrewsbury Town in the FA Cup. Because if you remember, Liverpool and Arsenal were due to play last Thursday in the first leg of the semi-final down at the Emirates Stadium. Oh, and lo and behold, Arsenal are in amazing form, flying till today. And also, I think Rob did mention about 3 weeks ago, Salah's gone, Mane's gone. So they've lost Matip, they've lost Keita's gone. Matip's not gone because apparently he's got COVID, so he didn't go. So they got the game called off because they had no goalkeepers. They had no goalkeeping coaches. Apparently they were going to get an 16-year-old lad out the Kop to come and play for his boyhood Liverpool team with his Norwegian accent. So what he was going to do, he had no players. So they went to the EFL, not the Premier League, because you remember the Premier League came out and said, you've got 13 fit out and a goalkeeper, you go and you play. Very much. Does anyone remember the Liverpool Aston Villa game last season when Aston Villa had a load of injuries and they stuck a load of kids out, didn't they? And nothing was said that night. Villa went out happy. City had 7 players out. We went out. But apparently Van Dijk and Klopp can come out, have a bitch, complain and moan, saying that we've not had any COVID issues, we've had no injuries. Well, that's a load of crap. So Klopp's come out today and said that only one of these so-called 35, 40 tests, positive tests they've all had. I think even the coach driver was tested positive as well. That it was only Trent Alexander-Arnold. And all the rest were false positives. Because, as you know, in England, there's now this rule. You just do the rapid test or the lateral flow test, and then you isolate. You don't need to do what they call, a PCR anymore.
Yeah, and you've got to feel, Martin, you've really got to feel for Liverpool. I mean, for them to be on the bare bones that they can't even afford a second test. I mean, that would have cost them all of £100 to get a second test.
Don't forget, Rich, this is Liverpool, who was so poor that they furloughed their staff. This multi-million-pound Liverpool.
Didn't they get money off the government as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what a shame. What a shame.
I hope you're not.
And then realised there were a bunch of
money from the government. Never.
I would never, ever suggest that Scousers get money off the government.
Yeah, good.
Every other week in the form of a gyro.
You know, I think the one thing I always have to tell
myself I got Cal Blundell message
is that it's not really you know, a lot of this we often say Scousers, and I think that's very unfair on the blue half of Liverpool. I think sometimes we have to check ourselves and, you know, mention the Red Scouse because, you know, I don't see any of these delusions and problems with Everton fans who historically, you know, before our lifetime, Everton fans were the biggest, you know, team in Liverpool. And one interesting thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but someone put together a little kind of moving graphic of all the top flight points by club and how they accumulated over time. And one thing a lot of people don't know, it was actually not until the 1980s that Manchester United had more top flight points than City, I think, except for a very small period early on. Essentially, through to the 80s and through to our relegation from the top flight against Luton, we were basically, in terms of top flight points, ahead of United. And if you look at it as well, Everton, until I think Everton was around the same time, Everton had accumulated more top flight points than Liverpool. So really, if you look at the first 100 years of Manchester and Liverpool football, it had been in terms of actually, not in terms of trophies necessarily in our case, but in terms of actually being up there at the top, accumulating wins, coming higher in the league. City had been more successful than Manchester United, and Everton had been more successful than Liverpool. But you would not even know in the mind of the Liverpool and United fans that City and Everton even exist, despite that. And you know, and that's the sad thing about football is that, you know, Liverpool fans think football started in 1970 something. You know, a lot of United fans
took a break
think it started in 92.
Took a break for Liverpool.
Gentlemen, can I just say there's some confusion in the chat about the COVID tests that the Liverpool players and staff have been taking. Robert Ward, you brought up there about the 2% failure rate, and I know that you've got a partner in the NHS as well, so you know the stories, mate. But I have to suggest to you that because Liverpool people speak with such and they're so phlegmy, that maybe they just saturated the tests and ruined the tests or something, because they spit all over everything, as you know, because they're disgusting subhuman people. And I think that's the only reason why the PCR test might have got a bit ruined, just by general amounts of. I mean, you just have to look at Carragher. I mean, he spits all over everything, doesn't he? So
yeah, I mean, there was a story, you know, on a number of kind of European websites, which got pretty much squashed in this country, if we're talking about conspiracies, was just the allegation on some leaked papers that there's a very high rate of asthma in the Liverpool squad. So it could be related to that. Maybe, you know, the fact that they have 10 times the normal rate of asthma in their squad, that could be possibly related to the tests. You know, that may be something they're taking for that.
Is that why the candles never get blown out there?
I don't know. I mean, and I don't know if that was just rumours circulating in Europe, which got, you know, squashed here. Was just you know, that there's, I guess by really bad luck, they just happened to bring together a team of players who had a lot of asthma problems, a bit like certain cycling teams who've, you know, had really big asthma problems.
All right, Rich. Rich is going deep on it tonight.
No, and these are this is actually entirely legal, because if you have an asthma exemption, you know, as we know from, you know, Froome being cleared, if you have an asthma exemption, you can actually, you know, get exemptions for certain medications completely legally and above board.
Oh, I've got a bad cough.
I mean, do you know the really scary thing with this is that this now, since we've gone, and I get you are entitled to confidentiality. But like you said, Rich, if we're going to go down a road where we're just going to use the rapid flow tests, or the lateral flow as they're called here, excuse me, if we're going to go down that road to prove whether you've got COVID or not, and this isn't a COVID, so any club might think, tell you what, we've got a few injuries here, key players are out. Well, I tell you what, I don't actually have to show it. I can just Billy bullshit my way through this and my game's off. Now, is this going to be the trend going into every... We could get this in the Champions League, the FA Cup, the League Cup. This could be going down as far... Because I know there was a big hoo-ha the other day about Southampton's manager and players and fans. I've had a bit of a pop at Newcastle United, because they've said they shouldn't be allowed to play any of their new players in the rearranged fixtures.
Oh, that's what I wanted to get onto next, gentlemen. Let's talk about that. I think that I think Hasenhüttl and all his boys are absolutely spot on in the right. If a fixture was destined to be played, but couldn't be played because of COVID or other issues, you should literally be only able to use the squad that was available to you at the time of the original fixture. Absolutely, because that's first class doping, Martin. That's first.
I mean, it doesn't matter because it's not like Kieran Trippier.
Martin, hold on. That is first class doping. If you turn your team, let's just theoretically say that if you turn your team to a bunch of duffers into Messi, Neymar, Ronaldo, and Kieran Trippier, that's unfair.
A different playing field.
Exactly. Yeah. So go on, Rich. What are you saying?
I think I was just going to correct you slightly. I think what you mean is you should be able to play the squad who was available plus the people who are out for COVID.
Yes,
in the original game. Yeah. So Liverpool should be able to play Trent Alexander-Arnold against Arsenal, but they shouldn't be able to play Mane and Salah because they weren't available. I think that's the argument. And if you had a game in December, should you be able to play new signings? I think the trouble is the downside to that and why it wouldn't get up is what happens if you've sold players in between and say, let's say you've sold 2 centre-backs and a left-back and you've signed 2 centre-backs and a left-back, then you might have to play in a far more weakened position because
that's
you can't use new
I still
players,
think the burden's on the club, mate. I still think the burden's on the club.
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument, and I think if you were playing a relegation 6-pointer against Newcastle, and Newcastle, let's say they do sign, 5 or 6 good players, and suddenly you're playing against Aubameyang and, Rafinha and a whole lot of other players who they've signed, you would feel that is unfair.
Well, of course you would. I mean, just imagine that you're Southampton, and Southampton are sort of, not in a but they're down there. And say Newcastle. I mean, just think about this, Rich and Rob. If you're Watford, you're Burnley, and you're sat there, and Newcastle could have played Southampton and got beat by them 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, and the other team, I can't remember the other team who were meant to play. They could have lost 6 points. Now if they bring in Trippier and Divock Origi and whoever else they want to bring in, this Botsman, say they bring all them players in, and they suddenly win the 6 points, and Watford and Burnley go down by 3 points. I know you're going to say, well, it's over a 38-game season, but as West Ham showed, you're going to have some clever dick lawyer who's going to turn around and go, well, all right, we're going into court over this because this all comes back to the whole point of why these COVID tests, yes, it's clear.
I'll make it more clear, Martin. Okay, so the league season is divided into 2 sets of 19. So any games that are a remainder from that first set of 19, you shouldn't be able to use new players in. Any games that fall after that first set of 19, as in the second set of 19, you can use those players in because that is how it would have worked originally. Because that's why you have the January transfer window, because the January transfer window is designed to affect games in the second set of 19, not the first set of 19. So I think it's fair to say, yes, games that would have taken place second set, use your new players. Games that are left over from the first set, absolutely not. And I think that's the line that you draw on it.
Yeah, I just think it's going to open. I'm telling you now, we ain't going to hear the end of this. Because if this, I think this could drag on and drag on.
Yeah,
we could end up with another West Ham situation here in Sheffield United. We really
What's
could.
going to be the worst thing about this is in about 2 months' time, when Liverpool have to play 3 games in a week, 2 or 3 times, we're going to have to listen to Klopp and Van Dijk whinging about the fact it's really unfair that City are only playing 2 games a week at the moment, and we have to play 3 games a week. So they are going to whinge, get something postponed for their own advantage, and then when the consequences of what they've done actually, come to fruition in a month or two's time, they're going to whinge and use excuses that they didn't have to play, like happened over Christmas.
That's the crux of every argument, isn't it, Rich?
Whinged about having to play on the 26th and 28th, and then miraculously they didn't have to play on the 26th. And then when they played on the 28th, they whinged that Leicester were so tired it actually made them play better, and they lost because Leicester were tireder than them and they weren't used to playing football, which was essentially what So whatever happens, we're still going to have to listen to it being an excuse.
Yeah, I know.
Well, City's the bad guy either way, right? Because we got on with it and we played all of our fixtures and didn't moan, even though we did have horrendous COVID issues. And as it turns out, we had deeper squad COVID issues than Liverpool. We still got on with it and played all our games. But as Rich rightly said, by March, it will be spun that Ickle City are playing 1 or 2 games a week where Liverpool are forced to play 3. It's absolutely hilarious that will be the fucking headlines, Rich.
But this still comes down to me of, unfortunately, it is a little bit of don't hate the player, hate the game. These rules have been put in that are absolute farcical. They're farcical because you can literally play the game here. You could literally turn around and maneuver every little chess piece. It's like the opposition having a game of chess. The other opposition covers it, puts a blindfold on, and the other guy starts moving all the chess pieces around to suit him. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. And this is part of another myth, another agenda put around by the media and put around by Tuchel and Klopp. That is, we have a much bigger squad, and therefore, even if we do get COVID, we have this much bigger squad, so it's easier. Now, interestingly, every Premier League team has to register an A-list, shall we call it, of 25 players.
25 players.
Made up of your 17, anything. 4 have to be home association grown and 4 homegrown. City had, I think, 19 players on that list. The smallest squad in the Premier League, 19 players on that list. I think there's a few other on that list. Now, Liverpool and Chelsea both had 25 on that list. So they both had. Now, Liverpool might argue that a couple of those are players like Neco Williams who don't play very often. And Chelsea's is actually a really strong 25. So both of those teams
I just need to correct you on
much
something.
Bigger squads.
When Neco Williams does play, he is the best player in his position in the world football. Anyway, carry on.
Come on, Rich. Liverpool give all the youngsters a chance. They're down at Melwood. It's the greatest ever academy. They let everybody in.
But my point is that you've got senior journalists saying City have got the biggest squad, the deepest squad. Well, that's a lie. We've actually got the smallest squad in the Premier League if you look at senior players. Now, that's partly our fault because we don't have any older homegrown players. I'll accept that. But we have the smallest squad. So how can journalists like Henry Winter, reputable journalists, I'm not talking about the Custoses of this world, how can they push that agenda? Now, I know why they push that agenda, because they think that we make changes to our team and we're better than everyone else. But the truth of it is, we have a squad of about 17 players who are rotated every single game. So the reason it feels easier for us to bring players in and out is that Pep has realised in the Premier League, you have to make changes. You have to rotate or you can't.
Oh, come on, Rich. It's not that. Haven't we got a £50 million fullback?
We rotate our team. We're on 11 wins. I think, 11 wins now? We're on a winning run for. We've changed our side every single game. Now, I guarantee you that when Liverpool go on an 11-game winning run...
Hold on, Rich.
If it wasn't for suspensions or injuries, they would play the same 11 7, 8, 9 times out of that and maybe make 1 or 2 changes. So Klopp thinks the way to win the Premier League is to play 11 players the same every game and then whinge if one of them can't play. Pep, who has actually thought about it and actually used science and coaching, realises I need a strong, united squad of 16, 17 players who will rotate every week so that none of them are overplayed. And that's the best way to win the Premier League.
Rich, you've made one fundamental error. You've made a fundamental error. According to Martin, City don't rotate players. Cole Palmer, call back. Facts.
Here we go again.
Anyway, right.
Here we go again.
So I want to let you now go. I want to let you both now go on to the last big agenda of the evening. You can both have your own little micro agendas after it, but a certain popular British, labradoodle-looking comedian made some awesome comments the other day. Just one Manx talking about in there in the comments. We're a dirty, filthy oil club who should go play football in the desert. Gentlemen, do you care to discuss in any way, shape or form Manchester City's finances and the false allegations of doping and bribery, and apparently we now pay the FA off. We now pay the referees off. So do you want to talk a little bit about our money? And personally, I'd like to add a little note on that. Anyone who's been to the city of Manchester in the last 10 years, and then look at the city of Manchester before that, and when we had the financial crisis, the global financial collapse in 2008, how dire the situation looked for the city of Manchester, and then when we got our takeover, how bright the future of the city of Manchester looks. So I just want to add that little caveat.
Well, I mean, what I'll do is I'll start off. And
well, hold on. We've quite literally got a financial expert, Martin. So I think we should rest on Richard for this one.
Well, I think there are more lies and misinformation peddled on this than on any other element. And I think, on so many fronts, I think there is absolutely no question there is a racial agenda by many people behind this. There is a looking down on owners from certain parts of the world. And I don't even think it was thinly veiled, the rant by a floppy-haired comedian. That was, outright, a racist attack for me. It wasn't about the money. It was about where it came from, and it was filthy. And the words used were just the words of the far right. And, maybe he thought he was being funny or ironic, or maybe he just lost control and let his real feelings come out about people from the Middle East. But and fundamentally, this idea, our owners, are, they are from a part of the world with very different politics and conditions than we are. But fundamentally, the UAE is the sheriff of Britain and the United States in the Middle East. The UAE does what it does because it's, benefactors, its closest allies, the people who supply absolutely everything to it for the bad things it does, are fundamentally Britain and America. So you cannot attack the UAE without acknowledging that for everything the UAE's done, Britain and America have probably done, exponentially times more. And when they do bad things, it's nearly always done based on training from Britain or America, with equipment from Britain or America, or based on the say-so and go-ahead of Britain and America.
Just want to step on your toes, Rich. BAE Systems, which is a British company, the biggest global supplier of torture devices in the world. Just so you know that fact. And
yeah.
in America,
and this is the thing. So let's forget the morality of football, because there aren't moral owners in the Premier League. You've got dodgy foreign billionaires who made their money in suspicious circumstances, owning about a third of the Premier League. You've got
subprime
American
mortgages,
sports
NRA.
businesses who are all about profit, no relegation, long-term business stream, turn football into, what American sport is. And you've then got a few foreign-owned, either directly or indirectly from, whether it's members of the family, state funds or state-owned businesses, whatever. You've got another few like that. There's next to no clubs now who have any real, there's, fan ownership or, any moral high ground on that. You do perhaps in Germany, where you do have, and a couple of clubs in Spain still owned by the fans, and they can claim some sort of moral position. But the idea of someone owned by a US billionaire who wants to get rid of relegation, form a Super League, to claim moral high ground is beyond the pale. And then there's just the real misunderstandings. This week, City were trolling this week. They released a number of what everyone outside City saw as related party deals for sponsorship. Now, one of them had Emirates in its name. So you had Liverpool and Arsenal fans pouring on and having a go. It was actually a Hong Kong-owned business, international hotel business. And, not related party at all, not even related party to the Middle East. But because it had Emirates in the name, everyone went ballistic. The fact is, in 2014, I think it was, when City were tackled on our fair play position in that 2010 to 2012, UEFA looked at all our deals. UEFA ruled 2 deals to be related party and not fair value. City had to agree to basically, I'm not sure if it was rebase or get rid of those deals. And they had to agree that all the deals would be fair value going forward. And since that time, City's deals have had to be fair value, and City have had to make specific commitments on those deals. So and then, we had all this nonsense with Der Spiegel and Etihad. Etihad got tested by an independent, one of the big four, an independent expert in these areas, got tested and got deemed fair value. So it does not matter if a deal is a related party. Leicester's stadium sponsorship, there's plenty of these things going on. If they are fair value, it is utterly irrelevant whether they're a related party. And this is going to become an even bigger issue with Newcastle now, because Newcastle are going to, they will get deals with Saudi companies, because what a surprise. Saudi companies will want to be associated with a business and with a club that is going to be seen in some ways as representing, Saudi supporters, etc. And we're going to have this every time a new deal is signed. But Newcastle will have to go and benchmark. They will have to go and test what the deal's worth, and they will have to keep to that. And if they do, it's fine. And this is fundamentally the basis of global profit and loss, global tax, global everything. You have to demonstrate, because all multinationals, their entire existence is based on related party transactions, from your Australia entity to your French entity to your American entity, and all of those have to be done at fair value. And the whole basis of the way the world's economy is based on that. So this idea that fair value is something set up for City to exploit ignores the very basics of international business, the very big principles around this, and the very strong way the authorities have of testing this and the measures they have. So again, there's just lie after lie after lie coming out saying, that City are, they should have only got 1 million from Etihad because, Etihad, got funding from its shareholders. It just shows ignorance, or it is a deliberate lie. Sorry, rant over.
Oh, perfectly fine, mate. Perfectly fine. It's good to know that we're not the devil. Martin?
Well, like we discussed, I think we sat down, didn't we, about our money that we made. I think we did it earlier on the season. City had literally made over 200 million this year. That was just on player sales, academy, winning trophies, getting to finals, everything. So we are perfectly. I've heard this waffle for 3 years, and I still hear it now that we are funded by a sugar daddy. It still gets said now. Manchester City have been financially stable and not relied on the sheikh quite a while now. They've not had to do. Going back to a lot of the topics Rich has even just mentioned, we don't have this sugar daddy that everyone thinks we are. We are self-sustaining now. That's what we built.
He got us to the table. He got us to the table. We were so far behind, and he got us to the table. But the thing is, he got us to the table no differently than, well, actually in a better way than United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool got to the table. Certainly better than the way Barca got to the table and Real Madrid got to the table. Those two clubs are absolutely unbelievable in the dark arts that they perform.
Well, do you know, I just found out, I didn't know this, that the Glazers have just took, when they had the money, and now this is peanuts what they've actually done with all, you know, when you look at the Glazers, but they've just took out a £50 million loan that they didn't really need, to be totally honest. They've took 34 million quid in dividends just this year alone to put in their own little piggy bank. It is an absolute. Do you know what Manchester United have for the Glazers? It's a little piggy bank that they're saving all the money in and getting it out from. There's no future for that. There's nothing. You couldn't give a toss anything. Where you've got ours, you just look around Manchester. I remember that part of Manchester, like a lot of other people, the bloody gasworks. It was desolate. It was absolute wasteland. There was nothing there. Absolutely nothing. There's now a brand new arena going up. Thousands upon thousands of jobs made in the local area. That part of Manchester was on its damn ass. Still is in many parts of Manchester, like Rob says about the food banks. And these owners have come in and they've not just gone, all this money for Manchester City. No, they haven't. They've built the area. They've built an academy for future. And that academy is not just used by Manchester City Football Club, may I add. It's used by local footballing clubs. It's used by, I know for a fact, it's used by some community service, you know, for these young children who go down a dark path and they're trying to get them back on the right path. They go there and play football. They've got that area is absolutely awash of future opportunities. And it's getting bigger and better all the time. We're not just this greedy little stadium with this greedy load of players that we just, you know, dip our hand in and away we go. We are now we're not quite out fan base wise, but we are building something that ain't going to be around for 10 years, 20 years. We're building something that ain't never going away. Yeah. Full stop. It ain't never going away. So all these media dickheads who want to sit there and other fans that want to sit there and go, well, don't worry, when your owner leaves, you'll be in the shit. No, we're here to stay. We ain't going anywhere. Deal with it. You don't like it, off your pop and support someone else. Yeah. Because you're going to have to like it and you're going to have to lump it. Because we're not here just for, it's not a fly-by-night job. We're building an absolute dynasty.
Yeah. And you know one thing, Martin and Rob, that is completely ignored by the press because, well, understandably, they want to paint City as being something that Sheikh Mansour just throws his money into, and basically it's losing money. He's you know, getting rid of his cash. I think it was just before COVID, Silver Lake bought, which is a US fund, Californian, mainly tech fund, you know, a bit like one of these, you know, US owners like Liverpool and some of the other clubs have. And they bought 10% of the City Football Group for $500 million in cash. Now that valued City at, I think at the exchange rate at the time was about £3.8 billion. Now we know that City Football Group goes beyond City, but, you know, most estimates I've seen, you know, estimate that, you know, financially City, you know, is by far the financial engine of the City Football Group. We make money, the group loses money overall. Is worth maybe 80% conservatively of that, possibly more. So that would value City around, you know, $4 billion, or, you know, just around £3 billion. Now, Sheikh Mansour, I think we cost about 200 million to buy City and pay the loan down, and, you know, he's net spend, I think, invested, you know, a bit over £1 billion, you know, between £1 and £1.5 billion in that time, and he's invested in the, you know, the stadium, etc. But the long and the short of that is he has probably made, you know, conservatively over £1 billion. His investment is now worth $1 billion more than he's done. So this myth that he's throwing money away into City, it's not true. He's actually making money out of City. He's recouped $500 million for 10%, and he also recouped, I think it was around $350 million for 13% that was sold, you know, about 5 years ago now, I think it was. So he's actually got roughly about $900 million back for 23% of the City Football Group. So even if he's invested $2 billion, you know, dollars in that, or, you know, $2.5 billion, he's already got getting on for half of that money back for 23% of the business. So he's, you know, it is phenomenally business performance as well. And because the agenda says we are, you know, we're losing money, we're having money poured in, everyone's missed that point. And that point should be far scarier to all our rivals and other fans than the fact that they think we're pouring money in. Because the reality is now we've got that infrastructure built, we've diversified the ownership a bit, and it will probably diversify further. We have, you know, turned a business that, you know, was not much over 100 million turnover in the late first decade of the 2000s to over $500 million now. And we've built an infrastructure around that and paid for that and built the squad. And we've done that whilst making money. And I think that, you know, and that's normal business. You know, that is how Amazon, Google, Facebook, any of the global business giants, they invested in their business. They lost money for a few years, but that investment was in assets and product and quality, etc. And they then make money. And that is what we've done. And that is what's going to hurt even more, because we're going to be making more money than these clubs who are net spend champions, etc. We're going to be making more money. We're going to be spending it more because our owners don't particularly need dividends, and things are only going to get worse for them. So, you know, they need to get used to it, and they need to start learning the facts. Otherwise, they're going to have some pretty horrible shocks when reality slaps them in the face.
Richard, I'll just say one thing, mate. Why on earth would you let truth get in the way of a good story?
That's the thing, though.
You wouldn't. Well, the new world is a world. You know, we live in a world where truth is cheap now.
No, I think it's already there, Rich. I genuinely think that United and Liverpool fans know that they know where they now are in the pecking order. And that's where they're fighting back so much, because it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, Martin, and you know, you guys living in Manchester, well, Manchester or Oldham, you guys, you know, may have a perspective. Most United fans I chat to, you know, a few of whom are, you know, ex-Manchester people, they're actually more annoyed with their own ownership than I'm not seeing them attacking City. I'm seeing them attacking the Glazers because they know they've spent as much as us. In fact, they overtook us in the net spend league.
Yeah, that does happen.
They know that. So I actually find United fans are actually far more realistic on this than Liverpool and Arsenal.
Some are, Rich. You'll find the more mature fans are like that.
Yeah. They know that their problem is, I've got a very good mate who's a United fan. He knows that City and United have invested about the same over the last 10 years. But he knows that one side is invested by an investment banker trying to get YouTube hits and, sign players for, social media and making money. And he knows that City have done everything around a football plan and signed players. So he would slag off Glazers and not blame City for it. Liverpool, on the other hand, Liverpool's fundamental problem is that their owners want to make that guaranteed profit. Their owners don't want to risk any of their own money or, anything in the club. So Liverpool does underspend. After that,
Rich, let's put it in a different way. You brought up this in conversation the other day when Manchester United did a certain piece of business recently and City did a certain piece of business. Can you give us a league table of not necessarily net spend champions, but money spent in the last X amount of period? I mean, you told us that no matter how you look at it, in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, Manchester United have outspent everybody.
Yeah, Manchester United are the
I think that should be your last agenda, Rich. Talk about that, mate.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Manchester United clearly now, over 1 season, 2 seasons, 5 seasons, 10 seasons, whichever way you want to look at it, Manchester United's net spend on player transfers is higher than City's. There is quite a gap after that. Chelsea have cut their spending relatively compared to the before that, and so you do drop down a bit till you get to the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. So first and foremost, if people are worried about spending in the Premier League, they should be attacking United and City, not just City. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to attack City because they've spent well."
Hold on.
And
yellow card for Rich. There is mitigating circumstances when it comes to Manchester City. We've won trophies.
There's a lot of
We've won trophies.
We had to start from.
We've won trophies.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm just talking about spend.
Well, no,
now.
I think no. My point is, Rich, that when you win trophies, that generates revenue, which you then spend. Manchester United haven't won trophies and still spent the money.
And absolutely, and I think just I've got a couple of names in front of me here, which I'll just talk a little about in this agenda. The players, the top 10 players, in recent years, who those different clubs have signed. Now, City's, Grealish, Walker, Stones, Mendy, Rodri, Mahrez, Diaz, Sané, Laporte, and Cancelo. You look at that list, and you would say probably 8 of those signings have been successful. They've been good signings. So it's hard to argue that Rodri, Mahrez, Diaz, even Sané, because he was sold at a profit, having done well, have been good buys. Obviously there's one that stands out as an absolutely woeful buy, someone we don't talk about. And, it is clear that we can't call Grealish a success at the moment. He may become one. He may become a failure. But fundamentally, 10 players there who you'd say 8 are good buys, 1 a terrible buy, 1's TBC. Look at that equivalent at United. Pogba, Maguire, Sancho, Lukaku, Di Maria, Fernandes, Martial, Fred, Wan-Bissaka, Mata. They cost slightly more than City's 10. Now, I look at that list, and Fernandes, you have to say, has been a good signing for United. But I look at the rest of that list, and I cannot see a single player there who you can say is a success. Lukaku was probably neutral because he scored a few goals and they got a lot of money back for him. Martial may be neutral because they've had so many years out of him, even though he wasn't the new Mbappe as as he was painted to be. But broadly, you look at that list, and United have probably made 6-7 bad signings out of those 10, and maybe one good signing. We've made 8 good signings and 1 or 2 bad ones. So that tells me that the coaching, the scouts system at City is vastly superior. You look at Chelsea's Lukaku, Havertz, Aris Balaga, Morata, Pulisic, Torres, Jorginho, Werner, Chilwell, Kovacic. You can probably say 3 or 4 great signings there, 2 or 3 neutrals, and 3 or 4 terrible signings. You look at Arsenal, who, this so-called, virtuous champions. They sit there and moan about our spending. In the last 5 seasons, our net spend is 50 million higher than Arsenal's. So 10 million a season. It's barely a rounding error when you look at Premier League spend. Now, our 50 million has generated 5 years Champions League, going far deep in the Champions League money. It's generated, 3 Premier League titles, and it's probably generated about $500 million more revenue coming in than Arsenal's. So how can us spending 50 million more to generate 500 million more, I should say, and how can that be bad? How can Arsenal sit there with the likes of Aubameyang suspended from the team, Nicolas Pepe on the bench? That's a best part of 150 million on 2 players. How can they whinge about spending? There's 80 clubs in the Football League who can whinge about the spending, but Arsenal aren't one of them. Arsenal have spent, over 400 million net over the last 5 seasons. So they should stop whining about that 50 million difference between us and them, and actually start whining about the fact that our money was spent nearly all on very good players who've done well, and they spunked a load of money on players who can't even get in their first 11. So, it's this agenda. Other teams fail badly. The one team who I'd say is an exception is Liverpool, because if you look at their top 10 signings, Van Dijk, Alisson, Keita, Jota, Salah, Fabinho, Konate, etc. Broadly, they've been good signings. They may dispel the myth that everyone comes from Bootle and played, junior football on Stanley Park. But Liverpool, their sporting director team, have bought good players generally. But Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal have wasted a load of money on players who have been absolutely, bang average in their teams. And they should start thinking about how they spend better and not whinging about the fact that a team who's spent about the same signed miles better players because we're more professional.
Thank you, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, Rich, you're supposed to drop the microphone. Yeah, there you go. Right, Martin. Let's get one final rant out of you, buddy boy.
I think we've covered nearly everything. There's not much we need to cover, because I'm not going down anymore rants and agendas anymore. Listen, for me, I think we've summed it up tonight and everything that we've done. I know someone asked about Newcastle. I just want to see whether Newcastle will be treated the same way we will. I'm really going to keep my eye on. I'm going to keep my eye on certain journalists. I'm going to keep my eye on certain commentators. I really am intrigued to see which way they're going to do that. Which road are they going to go down? Because the thing, and also that I find very, very interesting, is that I've seen it already with a lot of people. You have a lot of people giving it up, and Manchester City have won the league, and like we've all joked we're going to win the treble, and hopefully we do. Because trust me, we're not that arrogant. We are all old school City fans who know it. Things can happen. We know that. We're not silly. But this Newcastle thing is very, very interesting because I've seen a little bit of bite back. I mean, I've even seen Newcastle fans now bite back on they're being stopped from doing this because the league don't want another Manchester City. So we're now going to get the blame from some Newcastle fans because they can't spend.
Oh, diddums.
So I'm at the point where he's pissing it down outside. So let's blame Manchester City. COVID's Manchester City's fault.
Oh,
you know, you've got a broken bed at home. It's Manchester City's fault. It's just, you know what? There's no, weekends like we've done tonight. Rich has come out with some absolute amazing points.
Yep.
But the narrative will never change.
The narrative will never change. Correct, Martin. Right. For the last 5 minutes of the stream, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask the hosts, which are Rich and Martin, and this is importantly going out to the stream. The last agenda, the last conspiracy of the evening. Martin Horsfield loves Jack Grealish, wishes he was son. I'm asking the question now. It's an isolated incident. I'm not saying is he good enough to play every game till the end of the season. I'm not saying he should start in the Champions League final. But what I am saying to everybody involved is,
here we go.
Given our COVID situation, given that Mahrez has gone to AFCON, is Cole Palmer good enough to be in the starting 11 against Chelsea? If not, why not? Justice for Cole Palmer, free Cole Palmer. Rich?
Well, Rob, if I was to give one criticism for City as a club, to against Pep, against this, the sports directing and academy team, it's that I don't think we give enough time to our incredibly talented academy players. Emotionally, and how I look at football, I would start Cole Palmer against Chelsea. I want to see him and Foden in a front three.
Free Cole Palmer. Free Cole Palmer.
Yeah. So I would start him. I think it would be great for the fans. I actually think the more we start players like Palmer, the less ammunition there is in all these conspiracies we talk about for anyone to say anything. So when we're actually starting 3 or 4 of our academy, we actually undermine all these arguments against us. And I actually think Palmer is potentially a very talented player. I think we could have played Foden more. And I would love to see, the Foden and Palmer, either side of Sterling, up front for us against Chelsea. And I'd like to see him given a go and treated the same.
Standing ovation
not preferential,
for Rich.
Treated the same as Grealish and Sterling and Jesus and Mahrez, Foden, and rotated in that squad of players so that he starts, once or twice every 3 or 4 games. And then he becomes truly part of our, DNA. And I think that would make the fans would love it. I think it would, be a really good message to all of football. And I think, let's start having these boys from Wythenshawe, Stockport, etc. starting our game.
Oh, look at Rich being the old romantic.
Right, so there we are.
Absolutely
it's settled,
never happening, but never mind.
It's settled once and for all. All I'm saying is that Foden and Sterling will stay up front. Not Martin, you've been outdone. The chat has ruined you.
I don't care if it's outdone. Listen, Rich can sit there with his 1970s romantic novel. Cole Palmer plays 1 or 2 games.
Martin, you're about to build a straw man. Don't make me cover it in petrol.
I'm not even going to get involved.
Okay, right, fine. We was going to end the stream, but instead we're going to give the audience, we're going to give the room to Martin, and Martin can dig himself a big old fucking grave.
I'm not getting involved.
Here's a shovel, Martin.
No, I'm not. I've just said I'm not getting involved in it anymore. If people want to live in romance times, off they go.
But it's not romantic. I think he's shown on the pitch.
I'll tell you what, Rich, I'll have a bet with you right now on stream. Pep Guardiola ain't doing that. How much do you want to bet?
I don't think.
Don't give me the romance. Give me the reality.
Martin.
Give me the reality.
I think I don't think Pep will pick him. I don't think Pep picks
what we're having
enough
this
of our
debate
youngsters.
for?
But I would. If
Let's
I
get
was
bloody
Pep,
McAtee in the team then. Let's get bloody, come on.
I'd like to see
Martin,
McAtee come off the bench in the 85th minute when we're winning.
We're not making irrational arguments, Martin. What we're saying is that our number one choice for the right-hand side, Riyad Mahrez, has gone to the AFCON. Jack Grealish is a bag of fucking shit and shouldn't even be training with fucking Birmingham.
And shouldn't be playing on the right anyway.
Shouldn't be playing on the right anyway. Gabriel Jesus is a rotation player. Sterling and Foden will play on the left and in the middle. De Bruyne will play in the middle because De Bruyne loves playing against Chelsea. Ilkay Gundogan will have a rest. Bernardo will be in the middle. And that means that the perfect fucking prime player to play on that right-hand side is Cole Palmer. Free Cole Palmer. Free Cole Palmer.
Right, go with it.
Palmer.
Go with it. Free Cole Palmer. Yeah, he starts against Chelsea. I give up. I'm not going down the road anymore. You win.
He should. He won't.
No, you win. You win. You win. You win. I just hope he doesn't play like he did at West Ham.
I hope he plays like he played in the Champions League. I hope he plays like he plays against Everton.
Minutes.
I hope he plays like he played against Everton. Martin likes to cherry pick things. Martin, Jack Grealish has played about 11 games and they've all been fucking dog shit. Yet you still want to tie his shoelaces.
They haven't all been dog shit.
Yes,
he's got beautiful calves.
That's your agenda now.
Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Martin, you're just another brick in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Martin, you will be right on one thing. Pep won't pick Cole Palmer for Chelsea. I'd say there's a 99% chance of that. So we won't get the chance to be proven correct, sadly.
No, it's not about being proven correct. It's about logical leaps that fans should make about the progression
this
of their
argument
club.
Has gone on for 27 hours.
I don't care. I want a statue of Cole Palmer outside the fucking club next week. Oh, and not to mention, by the way, Martin, it's a home game. What better stage for Cole Palmer to show himself off on? He is an unknown entity. Chelsea have got fucking textbooks this thick about how to play against Mahrez or how to play against Jesus and how to play against Foden. Cole Palmer, they've got an A4 sheet of paper that they've not written on it yet. And Cole Palmer plays without fear. Cole Palmer is the perfect player. The perfect player to play.
I'm not saying
Chelsea.
He isn't.
What you literally have for 27 hours. You have
Palmer.
No for 20. Martin, for 27 hours.
There you go. No, I haven't. This is what I mean. I haven't.
He has, Rich, hasn't he?
Well,
I actually haven't, because tell you what, anyone who's actually listened to me for 12 to 18 months knows what I've said about Cole Palmer, and knows how I rate
it. Sold to a finance Jack Grealish deal.
The one thing I will agree with you on, Martin, is I haven't written off Jack Grealish yet. I watched a fair bit of him for Villa last year. I think he's a real talent, and I hope that he can learn to play the way for City, because at the moment, playing Pep football has taken away many of his strengths, and he's become very conservative, which is
blah 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 button. I have to press
problem.
I need to find my blah 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 button.
So I think he could still make it.
Jack Grealish, when he was at Aston Villa, Birmingham FC B-Tech, when he was there, right, he was playing at the top of his game, to the best of his ability. And I will say something that nobody can refute. Ilkay Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden, none of them are natural goal scorers. However, one requisite of playing in this Manchester City team is that you add goals to your game. And every single one of them has done that. One of the main arguments for Jack Grealish is, well, he's not a goal scorer. Well, guess what? You have to be a fucking goal scorer to play in this Manchester City team. And he better fucking start doing it soon. Because he is and he Jack also, fucking Rodney Marsh Grealish.
He also needs to learn that he can sometimes, go for something rather than taking the conservative pullback. And I also think he needs to be, playing in the attacking midfield rather than wide. I don't like him as a touchline hugging player. I think
this is the other
all
thing.
He does is cut back.
Okay, Jack Grealish is not playing in his natural position. Name one fucking City player that plays in their natural position, because you fucking can't, right? Raheem Sterling is a right winger who's played on the left wing and scored 14 goals. Kevin De Bruyne is a cam. He plays on the right or left-hand side of midfield. Bernardo Silva is a right winger, plays in the centre of midfield. And if you want to put Jack Grealish in the centre of midfield, guess
what? Ederson's a number 10.
And Ederson's a number 10. And guess what? Guess what, right? If you want to put Jack Grealish, your fucking floppy-haired, sloppy-calf dickhead, right, in that midfield, he's got to be better than Kevin De Bruyne. He's got to be better than Phil Foden. He's got to be better than Ilkay Gundogan, and he's got to be better than Bernardo Silva.
Yeah. And he ain't
better than any of those.
No, and he has to learn to play with good players. Fundamentally, the thing that he has to learn if he's going to make it at City is to play with good players. He's played with a team where, at Villa, where none of those players were as good as the players he's playing with now. None of them could control a ball and act as quickly as the players at City. And so he's got to relearn football. He's got to learn to be able to use his strengths, but within a totally different environment. And that is something that we will find out probably early next season, whether he has been able to learn or whether he hasn't. And that will determine whether he becomes a flop or whether he actually makes it once he's had that time to learn.
Jack
and
Grealish
we've seen examples of
floppy as his fucking haircut. Martin, come on, you've got 5 minutes now to defend your boyfriend.
No, I'm not going to. No point me saying anything. Because I get a straw man argument. No point me saying anything. Like people have said, Richard just summed it up. I will wait till next season.
You didn't give Bradbury a season, Gareth Taylor, Bob Taylor.
How would you know he didn't know them?
So many players you didn't give. Because I just know you. I know you as a person. You slagged off Zinchenko first season. I know that as a fact. You slagged off Bernardo. But you've just said I'll give him a season.
You did it with Aki when he walked in. You did it with
Nathan Aki.
You used to call Ilkay Gunderslow.
Because he is Ilkay Gunderslow. He is Ilkay Gunderslow. Martin, right, I'm going to clear...
Trouble is with the gender.
Shush your mouth. Shush your mouth. I'm going to clear two things up now, right? It is a fact that Ilkay Gundogan is a terrible number 6. Every single fucking time he played at number 6, we lost the fucking game. That is when I was critical of Ilkay Gundogan. That is a fact. So stop cherry-picking arguments because you're fucking wrong on that. Right?
He played
Nathan
Aki.
Most
of our run-in to the title.
No, with Bernardo Silva in the team. Stop cherry-picking facts. Stop it.
Well, he played number 6.
Stop.
And we won 14 games on the trot.
Your argument's just wrong. The second one, Nathan Aki. My main argument against Nathan Aki is, why did we sign him when we've got Taylor Harwood-Bellis? Because I want to promote players from within the club before we buy players. It's a fact. Your arguments are just naive and based on nonsense.
But when Laporte goes, if those rumours are true, Aki is there as a left-sided defender, giving us a chance to bring in another young defender as the 4th defender, which wouldn't be the case if we didn't have Aki.
Sorry, what?
Well, next season, if Laporte goes, we'll have
so that's something in the future.
And we could bring in a young defender.
Is that the future you're talking about? So how is that relevant to now and the past?
Because that then shows that if we hadn't signed Ake, we wouldn't have been open to be able to do that.
What it shows is that we would have had to sign another player at some other point. Rich, for an intelligent man, Rich, you just made a terrible argument.
He's got beautiful hair, a cultured left foot, and he's probably our best player in the air. So we'll have no anti-Aki.
But my anti-Aki argument isn't about his footballing ability. It's about how he's replaced an academy graduate in the squad. That's a reasonable argument. It's also an argument that you would make, Rich, if you weren't doing this weirdness at the minute.
And I thank goodness we have got Aki, because he's come in very handy of late.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on?
Flabbergasted by Rich and his waffle. You've been so good all night, Rich, and then you've just absolutely thrown yourself in a chasm of nonsense.
It's those calves, Rob. They just, once we started talking about that floppy hair and those calves, couldn't control myself anymore.
This is my favourite part of the stream now. Martin's got a face like a smacked ass.
Yeah.
And Rich is looking at the clock.
Thing, back to your point though, Martin, on Newcastle and what they're going to get a load of grief, but what Newcastle have to do, they could learn a lot from City, because if we look at City in the 13 years or whatever since the takeover, we started off by putting everything into expensive players. We then, went through a few managers, and it was mainly about spending. But what we realised, and you'll really see this in the first few years of Cheeky and Soriano running the club, we realised that there is no point in just doing that. That's just a short-term fix. And we built up the scouting network. We took a lot of people from Barcelona and other European clubs who came in, so that we tried to form the best medical team, the best analyst team, the best scouting team, and we tried to build up on all of those. Newcastle need to learn from that, and instead of just worrying about spending 100 million this transfer window, they need to be getting in the best coaches, staff, scouts, analysts, spending on their academy, spending on their medical equipment, and giving themselves that infrastructure behind to build from. And if they do that, they can actually avoid some of the pitfalls we fell into a little bit early on.
You want it all now, Rich. You want it all now.
But it's about realising if you go a bit slow at the beginning, you'll go much faster.
Trouble is, though, Rich, that's not human nature. And that's the problem with fans. It's an emotional game. And it's like let's do some Vlahovic. They're all getting giddy because reportedly they'd put a £70 million bid in that has apparently been rejected, and they got all excited about it. And what's the point in bringing in a Dusan Vlahovic to be surrounded by a bunch of scolders?
Yeah, Arsenal are the ones that are really trying to get the Vlahovic deal done. I did read, by the way, Borussia Dortmund and Norway striker Erling Braut Haaland believes that Manchester City will try to sign him in the summer. Now, can I just say that over the last few weeks, by the way, with this signing stuff, there's been a lot of posturing by newspapers, football clubs, his agent, and all the rest of it, and it's achieved the goal that they wanted. They wanted people to be talking about him being transferred. So anything that if you've heard 100% for sure he's going to City, or 100% sure he's going to Real Madrid, or 100% he's going to United, or whatever club, insert club name here, and you've heard from a verified source that he's 100% going there, all it's done is serve their agenda perfectly. You're talking about where he's going next, and that's the important thing that people need to know, and Dortmund and especially need to know that he's leaving in the summer. As you all know, and I think I can include Martin in this, we were desperate to sign him in the January, because as far as I was concerned, signing Haaland in January certainly guaranteed the FA Cup and the Champions League. The Premier League's already in the bag. I think it's fine that we can all safely say that, barring a catastrophic fuck-up by us, because it is completely in our hands, the Premier League's in the bag, and we win that with or without a striker. But I think the addition of Haaland would have certainly made the Champions League and the FA Cup much easier. But now it looks like it's the summertime, and all we're going to hear for the next 3 or 4 months is he's 100% going to this club, 100% going to that club, 100% going to the club. Personally, I'm desperate for him to come to Manchester City. People are saying that he's bang average. There we go. Just one man's just said Haaland's a donkey and we'd have to change our whole system to accommodate him. That is massively false. Massively false. We've proven I wish I could show footage on YouTube, but I can't. We've proven conclusively time after time that Haaland can play slow, he can play fast, he can play on the break, he can play on the edge of the area, he scores goals from the 6-yard box, the 18-yard box, the 12-yard spot, all the rest of it. He scores goals from all over the pitch. If you're making comments like that, that's your personal opinion, but I would suggest that you haven't watched enough of Haaland to understand truly what he provides to this team. But yeah, whatever, that's the summertime now, if it happens at all.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think City should go out and sign Dusan from Fiorentina, because they'd take money and he would join in a second. And then when we go for Haaland, he can be used to go on loan to Dortmund for a couple of years to help us secure the deal. And then if we don't get Haaland, we've already signed the second best striker available. So I think City should do that.
Vlahovic to be okay with that, Rich, and I don't think...
well, the thing
I love
is,
the way Rich has just used the second best striker in Europe as a pawn.
No, I'm saying if he comes and he does well, we might think we don't need Haaland. He's already cutting it up. If he doesn't look as good as Haaland when he comes, we can use him to help secure the deal.
Different players.
Or sell him on to another club for the money we've paid for him, because he's going to go cheap because he's only got 18 months left on his contract.
Cheaper than Haaland?
So,
okay, just you can carry on with this Haaland debate in a second, but FIFA's just asked a question in the chat there. When's the next Twitch stream? As far as I know, it's Tuesday, unless Martin's leaving the channel again. Is that right, Martin? Is that Tuesday, or are you leaving the channel? Which is it?
Tuesday or Wednesday.
I thought you said Tuesday the other night, so we now.
No, I said Tuesday or Wednesday the other night.
No, you said that we're going to do bumper streams. You said we were going to do extra streams because we haven't been on Twitch for a while.
Yeah, but we're going to do Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll probably be Tuesday, but it's Tuesday or Wednesday is what I did say.
Okay, fine. Now get back to your Haaland debate.
It will be one of them, though.
Yeah.
Listen, Rich. Again, you've thrown out another club, buddy. Cookie will have one. Dusan Vlahovic, can you be our pawn to get Haaland? Of course, that's going to happen.
Well, you don't say that to him, do you?
Rich, they're completely different players, so you can't even say, well, that won't work. So, to me, Haaland, I get up when people say he would have to. Yes, I get what they're saying, and they're looking at it because they see 6'4", 6'5", or whatever it is, and they're viewing it as the old 6'5" Niall Quinn sort of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, don't you? By that, the target man, and
the disco pants.
Yeah, and everyone's looking at Haaland a bit like that. Haaland scores with his left foot, right foot. Got a very, very deceiving change of pace.
He's got good control.
He can look like a donkey and suddenly go into, prime Linford Christie. He can just zing and gone.
Yeah.
I always go back to that Etihad game against Dortmund where we did jack shit for 80 minutes and that little through ball to Royce. And you think, Jesus, didn't even see that coming. And his power. Diaz had been running the league all season. And Diaz was like, see ya, bye.
Oh, he just knocked him over, yeah.
Ta-da, get to the ground, you. Like a little kid, see ya, to the ground you're going. He's deceitfully strong, deceitfully quick. And I just think, and not only that, you see, people don't believe all this because I've heard it today, but I've read the exact same Waffle Rob's heard that, Manchester United have accepted he's not going there. Manchester United never accept anybody's not going there. United go after him till, he could be sat in the medical room at the Etihad and United are on the phone to him trying to nip over to Carrington at the same time. That's what United do. So don't believe that Waffle that United have ruled themselves out because that's what they do. They just don't rule.
But Martin, what I will say is United will rule themselves out by not coming in the top 4 this season. And I think
Yeah. At the end of the day, we will see. It will all come out in the wash with Haaland. We'll see what kind of a man he is. Is he in it for the money? Is he in it for the glory? Because there's been, I've heard 3 times he wants this wage. He wants a project. It's changed quicker than everyone changes socks.
He probably wants
what's
it
happening
all,
is,
Martin.
What's happening is everything's changing because it's suiting whichever club they're throwing his name at. So at United, it's a project. It's City, it's to do with, and with Madrid, it's a project. That there was today, the exact same thing Rob said, because they're going to rebuild the Santiago Bernabeu. You want Haaland as the big presentation for it to come out in this brand new rebirth of Real Madrid. And he loves that idea of being the figurehead of that rebirth. But then you see next week, you'll see a Manchester-based media was showing pictures at Wembley in his Manchester City shirt. So it's whichever way the wind blows on that day for the Haaland story.
And I think Martin, the truth is that as the best young player in the world, in the eyes of most people, that he probably wants all those things. He probably wants to go for the best money, to the best place, to be the figurehead of that team and to win loads of things. Now, I suspect what we'll see, at the moment, I would say clearly City and Real Madrid appear to be the front runners. Barcelona are pretending they're interested for politics. Laporta's trying to drum up some support. Most of the other English clubs have been quiet. The one club that I think will throw huge money at him when they lose Mbappe will be Paris. And they're not talked about it. But I actually think that with the Qatar World Cup and with Mbappe almost certainly joining Real Madrid, that Paris will enter and they will have more money than either City or Real Madrid will be prepared to put in it. Whether Haaland would go to the French league is a big question.
Highly
and that's
likely.
A question he will have to answer, because I think he will have those three clubs will be the choice when it comes to the summer.
I think if Haaland, because it's going to go to a bidding war, Rich, because it's going to go to a bidding war, there is a possibility that Haaland does go to Paris Saint-Germain, absolutely. But if you listen to him in interviews and you listen to anything that has ever been said from his camp, he wants to play competitive football in a competitive league. Sorry, France, that just isn't it.
Yeah, there
is a possibility because it will be a bidding war. There is a possibility that he goes to Paris Saint-Germain, but it won't be his personal choice. His personal choice is Manchester City or Real Madrid.
Yeah, and I think you'll have three competing things. You'll have the most money from Paris. I think you'll have that kind of the glory element, the Santiago Bernabeu, the history element, and living in Spain in a warmer country will be appealing for Spain. And then I think
would a Norwegian want to be in a warm climate
with the best manager and the best teammates will appeal to him most about City. And so I think it will come football-wise, City will be the best option. Money-wise, Paris will be the best option. And probably that kind of glory Ballon d'Or-wise, Real Madrid will probably be the best option. And he'll have to choose between those three.
As far as the climate thing goes, Rich, he's from Norway, so I'll discount that immediately.
Yeah, and he's lived in Leeds.
And he lived in Leeds. And Germany's climate is not too dissimilar from England's anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But I think those
for me,
I think will be competing for him.
I think it's us, Madrid.
Yeah, I'll go with that completely. Us in Madrid. And it will be a bidding war, and Paris Saint-Germain will certainly... Yeah. There's going to be a lot of Chelsea will throw it in. There'll be so many clubs. Yeah, there's lots of clubs. Because it starts at that €65 million mark, lots of clubs are going to throw their two pence.
And it'll be like a rat race, and you'll have people drop at different sections in it. And listen, Manchester United will go far in the rat race because they won't give it up. Because I know people are saying United can't attract anyone. Well, they can. They can attract top players. So
do you know what, Martin?
It's a little bit of waffle that they can't attract because they can.
I think
because the top players still want to go there because of the money.
I think what we'll see this summer is Manchester United being used the same way as City are used non-stop. I think Raiola
I hope so.
will use Manchester United to get every cent he can out of the team that he goes to. But I do not think that United will get in the Champions League. And I do not think that Haaland would consider joining a team not in the Champions League. If anything that he's said publicly is true, then he wouldn't consider that.
Rich, don't believe all that.
But
don't believe all that.
If Raiola can get 50 million for his agent's fee and 25 million for Alfie,
but he's going to get a load of money.
And let's not discount. Brian did mention it in the chat, and I have mentioned it on previous streams as well. Puma are going to have their two cents in this one as well, and it'll be a lot more.
Yeah, there'll be loads. There's two bidding wars, and when I thought about it, that's why I don't think the January deal will happen. A, because of the position we're in, and B, I think Haaland's going to have his plate full dealing with his sponsorship deal.
I just think, Martin, that lots of piss would be completely. I mean, if we signed Haaland in January for like 140 million, all of these arguments that have been made against us this year about how we're ruining football and all the rest of it, they would come to fruition because we would ruin.
But the
football.
thing is, we're going to sign a number 9. We're going to sign a number 9, and there's only really 2 out there who Manchester City will want. It's Haaland or Vlahovic. That's it. There is nobody else. Because I think,
about
you know,
Paulie and Delap?
Pardon?
What about Paulie and Delap and poor Harry Kane? Harry Kane.
Well, there you go.
Harry Bain.
I just genuinely believe they are the 2. And from what people have said, and the local journalists have said, Haaland's the guy they want.
There is the other factor as well. Longevity of Pep Guardiola. If he signs another contract, he'll certainly want to reinvigorate the squad over the summer. That whether it's a striker or whether it's a centre half, there's going to be big changes at Manchester City this summer. Players will be leaving, players will be coming in. There's been these different things that have been said. Martin said it as well about how there's a potential spending spree coming in the summer. So things are going to shake up in the summer. And I also believe that Pep Guardiola's future at the club is going to be absolutely decided this summer, whether it's another 3 years or whether he walks away. Personally, I believe that if he does sign another 3 years, certain managers like Jurgen Klopp are going to retire from football, quit, or commit suicide because.
No, I think if Pep re-signs, Klopp will go for a huge amount of, he'll go to Paris when Poch will go to United. And I think if Klopp sees Pep sign an extension, he'll think his best bet is to go to Paris where, he will be able to, go for the Champions League and win the league.
He better go soon, Rich.
Get some trophies.
And the other thing as well with Pep Guardiola,
it's on its way soon.
Well, the other thing with Pep Guardiola is that he doesn't care for number 9s, really, does he? He just doesn't care for number 9. Samuel Eto'o.
No, he doesn't. I know, but he will not. You can't, as a club, from top to bottom, say for over 12 months we're going to get a number 9. We're going to get a number 9. And then never deliver a number 9. They have.
I mean, that was Cal Doom's words, wasn't it? Last summer, it was all about the number 9 that was coming
Pep
to the
said
club.
So. Pep has said the club will buy a number 9. He said it again a few weeks back. The club are going to buy a number 9. It's a matter of when, not if, and who. It's a matter of when and who, and whoever that is.
Yeah, I think the big difference is though.
Fingers crossed for Danny Ings.
That we've clearly shown if we can't get the player we want, we would rather do without a number 9 than sign a player we don't want. And I think, we all thought that was, even I, often defending the sporting decisions of the club, we all thought that was a big risk this season. We all thought that was probably a mistake. We all thought when we didn't get Harry Kane, we should have signed someone else when that deal was way out.
Can that go on forever though, Rich?
No, I don't think it can. But I think if we think that there's only 2 strikers good enough for us and we don't get the 2 of them, I wouldn't be massively surprised if we didn't go and sign a striker.
Big boy pants time. Big boy pants time. Put them on. And let's go
we're not at the kids' table. Simple.
You want to compete with Madrid, Barcelona, and all these others? At the end of the day, let's stop selling our superstars and let's start buying.
So Charlie's just said, didn't I say at the start of the season we can't win the league? I don't use the word can't, Charlie. I said, and I still maintained that it is harder to win the league without a striker. Just because we're Superman surrounded by humans and making them look very mortal, doesn't mean that this is the easiest way to a title. We're a freak of nature.
And Charlie, you are totally forgetting there that the club on a number that from top to bottom have said they're going to buy one.
And the other thing as well, yes, we won the league without a striker last season. Yes, it looks like we're going to win the league without a striker this season. But the game of football that's like 160 years old, yes, 4-4-2 was a thing for a few decades.
It's now 4-2-2-2.
But strikers are just strikers, mate. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, and so is Pep Guardiola. And Pep Guardiola cares more about the Southampton game and more about the Crystal Palace game than he does any other game this season. The Liverpool game as well, 2-2 draw. He cares more about those 3 games than any other game these seasons. And those games were, if we had a striker in those games, all 3 of them would have been wins. And that is what Pep Guardiola, autistic off the spectrum, that's what he cares about most. The 0-0 draw against Southampton, the loss against Crystal Palace, and the draw at Anfield. We have a striker in those 3 games, we win those 3 games. Irrefutable. And Pep Guardiola knows that, and Pep Guardiola believes that. So yes, Charlie, I'm fine with your point about winning the league without a striker, but...
Keep telling your feet, by the way, they're going to get a £1.5 billion loan, so don't think they're as finished as everyone says they are. We'll see. We'll see what Barcelona do. I don't know how they're getting this loan. It's probably they're using it by saying the redevelopment, the camp. Right,
gentlemen.
That's probably how they're getting that.
Gentlemen, well, I mean, Charlie, okay, but Kal Abdul Mubarak, our chairman, and Pep Guardiola, our manager, have both committed in public interviews in the end of season statement last year, where they've both said we are getting a striker. So, are they just words? Are they just playing games? Pep Guardiola is known for it. Yeah, you're quite right. Pep Guardiola sometimes does make statements where he just says one thing and means another. But Kal Abdul Mubarak doesn't. Kal Abdul Mubarak is a pretty straight shooter, and he declared that his ambition is to bring a striker to the club. Anyway, gentlemen,
and they did go after Kane.
And we did go after Kane. Yeah. Anyway, gentlemen, so, final thoughts. We've had I don't know how we've managed to squeeze 2 hours and 1 minute out of this, seeing as we were only talking about a 45-minute waffle, but well done. Final thoughts, gentlemen?
I think the sooner that people recognise that we are where we are because of professionalism at all elements of the club, that we think about the way the Premier League season works at a more sophisticated level than our competition, that we have a better scouting network and sign better players than our competition. We have a better coach than our competitors at the moment. I think the sooner people realise that and work out how they as clubs address their deficiencies in those areas and beat us by being better than us, rather than making excuses for why they lose. As soon as that mentality changes in the other clubs, they will improve and they will give us a real good go. But as long as the agenda, the excuses, the whining is the endemic psychology of other big clubs in the Premier League, they're going to keep losing. Because if you, as a person in life, live your life by making excuses all your life when things don't work out, you're never going to get anywhere. If you in life have bad times and you deal with them, and you work out how you're going to do better next time, you'll get somewhere in life. And that is the mentality that the other clubs need to do, is start looking at what they can do better and stop looking at excuses for how City are lucky that they're doing something better.
Martin, before we come to you for your final thoughts, again, just one man just said, what's the obsession with signing a striker? Do goals from strikers count more? I mean, we literally just said Southampton, Crystal Palace and Liverpool away. That's the obsession with a striker.
I think
Champions League final against Chelsea. That's the obsession with a striker.
Yeah.
A striker is there to score goals. Other people do all the hard work, and the striker is, unlike any other type of player in football, they have this desire and ability to just find the bottom corner or the top corner and score goals. That's why striker. Martin?
Well, I'm loving the Riches. I feel like we should start a new show, Rich in Wonderland, because he's loving these little romantic. He's going to a tea party with a white rabbit suit. Listen, I love your intentions, Rich, and your thoughts, but it ain't happening. Liverpool and United fans have been bitter for years and years and years and years and years. They will never accept it. No one will ever accept where we are or where we're going and everything else. UEFA will never accept us. The football big boys G14 group will never accept us. It's why we went along with the European Super League, to try and be mates at a party that we weren't really like wanting to be at.
And when we first won the league, we had 4 strikers. What's your point? Sorry, Martin.
So, listen, Rich, everyone else, let's just keep boiling the piss. Because you know what? It's funny. It's funny. We'll lift trophies, and also we'll lift trophies with one hand, and we'll lift your bottom lip up off the floor with the other hand. And I'll get a bucket for your salty tears. Because that's all they are. And keep crying and keep bitching and moaning. Because you will. Rich is giving you a lovely little speech there. But Rich is in Wonderland. I'm in Manchester. Real world. You're going to be salty forever. Deal with it. Manchester's blue. Football's blue. The future, the here and the now, is blue.
So the trophies are all blue as well, Martin.
Oh, and the white and the blue ribbons. Go and have a look. When Sky do their big presentation of the Premier League, what colour are the ribbons? The blue and white. Red is the colour of the devil. Devil of blood. Evil little stuff. Bad stuff.
Is Martin going on some evangelical rant right now? What's going on? Martin, you're not one of those American preachers on TV for money, you know. Can Cole Palmer's career be healed?
Yeah, Rob, imagine Martin as a cult leader. Would you join Martin's cult?
Do you say cunt? Sorry, what?
Cult. The Reverend Martin Horsfield.
That would be an ecumenical matter, Rich, which I care not to talk about.
You go and play with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, you.
I am doing, you're right here. And Alan's just a WhatsApp message away.
Good night, everybody.
For you, not for me.
Oh,
thank you all for joining us.
Martin's laptop's coming soon, by the way. For anyone who's persevered during this 2-hour stream of Martin jittering in and out of existence because he has browser pages open on his laptop that he's not allowed to. No, I haven't
actually. And I'll tell you what the problem is. Because there's an issue with my modem. There is an issue with my modem. That's open to...
The issue with your modem doesn't mean that you jitter on stream, Martin. It just doesn't. We can have a technical conversation afterwards about why you're wrong. Bye, everybody.
I've got somewhere to go. Bye.
Just keep you here for another 30 seconds. Hey, anyone call back to a previous channel? Do 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 do.